Why you're not building muscle even though you're training hard. I spent years doing this. I spent years showing up to the gym, training with an intense mentality, taking my sets to failure, like what I thought was failure, pushing myself super hard. But the changes in my physique were very minimal. I didn't grow very much. I didn't build very much muscle. I wasn't shredded. I didn't see any impressive improvements from the work that I was doing. But through my own trial and error, by trying different training splits, trying different training techniques, talking to people in the gym, trying to educate myself, watching YouTube videos, reading research studies, all these things, I was able to come up with some of the best training techniques in the game that bodybuilders use to keep consistently building muscle and keep making progress within their physique. And that's exactly what I'm going to be sharing with you guys here in this video. Within the last year, I've taken my physique from this to this. And in my recent transformation, I was able to not only lose body fat, but pack on muscle at the same time. 40 pounds of body fat lost, 5 to 10 pounds of muscle gained through exactly what I'm going to be teaching you guys here in this video. First thing we need to understand is that our sole purpose with this is going to be stimulating hypertrophy, otherwise known as muscle growth in the gym, right? I'm sure you guys have heard the basics, progressive overload, keep adding more weight, yada, yada. That's not what I'm going to be talking about here. I'm going to be talking about more detailed, in-depth training techniques that I've started applying to my training that has gotten me better pumps, gotten me better stimulus, and I've seen so much better progress within my physique and skyrocketed my gains to the next level by learning the exact things that I'm going to be sharing right now. Now, the first mental frame that I need you to click into is that we are in the gym to stimulate hypertrophy for the specific muscle groups that we are training today, and that is it. Like, right, you might have your mobility or stretches on the side, but when we are training, we are trying to stimulate hypertrophy to the targeted specific muscle group, and that is it, okay? So if you're hitting a chest day, if that's what you're in the gym for, then our goal is to stimulate as much hypertrophy or muscle growth to that specific muscle group. And we need to be applying every single thing, training with a purpose and intensity of just, I am hitting my chest. I'm not worried about my triceps. I'm not getting my front delts engaged. I am working my chest, and that is it. Now, of course, there's exercises that are going to include more than one muscle group at a time, right? With your bench press, you're not just hitting your chest. It's also going to be some triceps. It's also going to be some shoulders, but we're going to talk about that later. We need the mental frame of this is the muscle group that we want to be hitting. Now, the first thing that I started implementing more into my training that skyrocketed my gains to the next level because I was able to stimulate more muscle growth with my training is realizing that the eccentric is where you grow. The eccentric is basically the lowering portion of any exercise. So say we're doing a bicep curl, the contraction when you're actually doing the curl is the concentric. The eccentric is going to be where you're actually lowering the weight down. That right there, when you're slowly releasing the muscle, that's what's going to stimulate muscle growth within your training. This is so commonly neglected, and this is exactly what allowed me to take my gains to the next level. It seems as if it would be the concentric, right? Imagine you're doing a dumbbell press, like it's like, yeah, right? Like it just seems like the hardest part is going to be to lift the weight up. But if you actually focus on stretching the muscle down, it's going to stimulate that much better gains within your training. Now, it doesn't have to be the slowest thing in the world. You don't have to sit there like an autist and control it down for 10 seconds. But what I need you to focus on is your eccentric is going to be slower than your concentric. So slow on the way down, explode up. Slow on the way down, explode up. It might seem a little bit weird and a little bit goofy at first, and it might not feel like your normal style of training, but your normal style of training has led you to look like you. It has led you to plateau. It has led you to make no progress. So I promise you, implement this and you're going to get a better pump. You're going to get better stimulus and you're going to be like, holy shit, Simon was right. This hurts. This is no joke. And the next thing that I want you to understand, and this goes hand in hand with the eccentric, is that the stretch is what matters. So not only are you slowing down your eccentric and you feel that mind-muscle connection, but as you control it down, the targeted specific muscle group should be stretched out all the way. So with the chest press, you should be just ripping your chest apart, feeling that deep stretch in your chest, and that's what's going to stimulate the most muscle growth. The specific muscle group that you are targeting, right? We figured out this is what we're targeting. It should be taken through a full range of motion. So the deepest possible stretch for that muscle, then explode on the way up. This is such a common mistake that I see with people's training, and especially with like minor muscle groups like triceps. People will do tricep extensions, but they never let their elbow come all the way up and actually get a stretch in their tricep. They just half-ass in the bottom range of motion, not the top range of motion where the most hypertrophy is stimulated. So keep this in mind. The stretch is what we're aiming for. The stretch is what's going to stimulate that growth. So stretch that muscle under the load, explode on the way up. That's exactly the mindset that I apply to all my training. I'm just focusing on the stretch, the deepest possible stretched portion of the movement. As you start implementing these two things, focusing on the eccentric and focusing on the stretch, lower your ego. I cannot stress this enough. I used to just have this high ego about how good my physique was and how I was a strong guy because I was doing 80s on incline dumbbell press or whatever. I just had like an attachment to the weight that I did, and I refused to go any lower because I felt like I was just being humbled. But lower your ego and lower the weight. Instead of doing the 80s, I had to drop down to the 60s to master this, right? To master this perfect form and technique, achieving a deep stretch, focusing on the eccentric, and then exploding on the way up. It's a far harder style of training. But guess what that also means? It means better stimulus. It means more growth. And the weight doesn't significantly matter if your form and technique isn't on point. So now you've realized these three things. You're focusing on the eccentric. You're really feeling that stretch with each and every rep. And you've lowered the weight so you actually have very good control and mind-muscle connection with what you're doing. Now, we still need to keep intensity pretty high. But as we're getting used to this new style of training, you need to be training to form failure. What do I mean by form failure? You stop the movement when your form breaks down, when you can no longer press or curl or do the exercise with proper technique. The reason we're only training to form failure because when our form breaks down, we start neglecting the specific muscle group that we need to be targeting. We talked about this in the beginning. You need to be training with intention and purpose of targeting the specific muscle group. And an amazing example of this is the pec fly machine, the pec deck, the chest fly, whatever you want to call it. But the chest fly machine can be an amazing exercise for the chest until you mess it up, because you need to be opening up your chest and achieving that deep stretch, right? Focusing on the eccentric, achieving that ripping sensation within your chest, and then closing back up. Now, be careful with the closing back up, because that's the concentric. That's what you would consider another rep, right? You start from the bottom, then you come back up and close up. When you're closing in, it's easy to start rounding your shoulders, to start getting your shoulders engaged, to start getting more triceps engaged in order to complete that extra rep, but you're taking the tension off your chest. Your chest is no longer the targeted muscle group. You're now just doing the exercise to train your front delta and your triceps, which is not what we're here for. We're here to hit our chest. Now, what you could do, and which would technically be smart, is use worst form to get it all the way up, and then you open up your chest and you control the eccentric again. That's something you could keep in mind, is eccentric, right? So if you can get the weight up one way or another, but then focus on the eccentric with proper technique and still load the specific muscle group, that's a way to do it. But that's not the mindset I want you to approach this with. Just train to form failure. Once your chest, specifically your chest, can no longer keep doing more reps, that's when you cut the set, cut the exercise, and call it right there. As we've mastered all these things, there's one really funky component to this that you probably don't realize. When you hit failure with your exercises, you no longer finish the rep when you're locked out. Think about it. This whole time you've been doing exercises and you finish the rep. Say we're doing an incline dumbbell press, because this has been a good example. You lock out the rep, you get the last one all the way up, and that's when you're like, okay, we're good. We're good. You drop the weight, you finish the set right there. No, you did not. Now we are going to be finishing our sets in the deepest stretch position, reaching failure every time. So you cranked your last rep up. You barely got it up. It was so intense, right? Then instead of, okay, we're done. No, you keep the load there and you control the eccentric all the way to the deepest stretch. That's the most hypertrophic portion of anything, right? You're close to failure, your muscles exhausted, you're getting the best stimulus. It doesn't want to keep going. That's when you make it keep going. You keep the tension on the muscle. This is specifically where I would slow down my eccentric, because it is so painful. If you just control the weight, you locked it out, you're not done. You control the weight and you just feel your chest ripping all the way back down to the deepest stretch. Then you rack the weight and can be done with this exercise. What I call this technique is as if another rep. There's some movements that you have to implement this with, but there's some movements where it would just be kind of stupid. Imagine you being on a bench press, and instead of finishing the set at the top, you finish the set at the bottom, and then you're just stuck with a barbell on your chest. That's not what we want to be going for. Be smart about this, but especially when you're doing machines, dumbbells, things like that, 100% I need you to be implementing this. Finish the stretch, finish the rep with the muscle at the utmost stretched position. This is game right here. I'm putting you on. Basically, everything I'm teaching you is levels. I need you to go back and master the first thing, then the second thing, then the third, but we're just getting more complicated as we go. Now, One thing you could do to take it even further. You've done as if another rep, you've controlled it all the way back down to the stretch. You've reached failure, and there is no way another rep is going back up. Are you done with the set? You could keep going. What do you mean? Yes, you could keep going, okay? Stretched partials, okay? So we've reached the deepest possible stretch. We're like, holy crap, that was painful. And there's no way I'm getting it all the way back up. Well, you don't need to. If the stretch is the most hypertrophic stimulus that you're going to get, the stretched position, what if you just spent more time in the stretched position? What if you just kept going and just tried to get it up as far as possible and then controlled it back down again? And then controlled it back down again. That right there, they're called partial reps. That might be the most hypertrophy you're ever going to stimulate within your whole workout. They're amazing because you're just focused on the stretch. That's all you're doing. You're not even contracting the muscle all the way. You're just working in the stretch position, and trust me, it just rips your chest apart. I have literally like nasty stretch marks all over my chest from doing these techniques, not in like the best way possible, because I've been able to stimulate so much hypertrophy in my chest. So stretched partials, they're absolutely fantastic, and I would specifically implement these on safer exercises. Dumbbells can be very scary to do this with. I never do this with dumbbells because it just seems heavy and it doesn't feel good. But machines, back movements, arm movements, tricep extensions, bicep curls, all these things. When you can't get a full rep, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be done with the exercise. When you reach the full stretch, you can keep cranking reps, keep trying to stimulate a few more quality controlled reps within the stretched position without having to lock the weight all the way out. And specifically with back movements, think about back movements. You rack the weight at the very stretched position, right? So your back is fully stretched out when you rack the lat pull down machine, or your back is all the way stretched out when you rack the row machine, whatever you're doing. So what if you just did a few extra reps without being able to row all the way back, right? You don't need to squeeze all the way back. You could just do a few partial reps right here and just feel your back ripping apart, right? Same thing, explosive with the concentric, try to get it up as far as possible, then you control it. Then you just let the weight rip your back apart. It's amazing. That is what hypertrophy feels like. It's actually scary putting you guys on this much game because the soreness that you're gonna feel from this, it's gonna be insane. You're gonna come back from the gym like, holy crap, that was ridiculous. I shouldn't have done that. I'm gonna be sore for the next 3 days. But that's what we're going for. That's what we're going for. We're going for a stimulus. Now, we don't have to look at soreness as like, oh, if I'm not sore, that means I didn't do it right. But soreness is an amazing indicator that you probably fucked shit up. It's an amazing indicator. If you, even that following day, once you get done with your workout, if your biceps like tweaking, if you can like barely type on your computer because your arm's like spazzing out, you fucked shit up. You definitely stimulated some amazing hypertrophy. If the next day you wake up after your leg day and your hamstrings are just in pain, it just hurts to stand up, you fucked shit up. Like, it's an amazing indicator. I've been working out for 5 years. I still get sore from my workouts. I hit legs 3 days ago. My hamstrings are still killing me. Now that might be an indicator of actually poor recovery. I should probably be recovered by now, and I need to focus on more protein and sleep. But that's another conversation. Soreness means you've gotten good stimulus from the workouts that you did. Now, there's a few more things we need to talk about as we're going to be implementing all these things, because this is advanced shit. This is training to failure, past failure. It's no joke. You're putting your body through a lot of stress, and it might not be the smartest thing for you to just be doing this every single set, every single exercise. Your whole workouts are surrounded by exactly what I just gave you. That might not be the smartest thing. So what are we going to do? The first thing we're going to do is we're going to put our compound exercises first. Compound exercises first. This is going to be the main movement for the specific muscle group that you were targeting. For chest, this might be bench press. This might be an incline dumbbell press, probably some sort of the press, as it's going to be one of the heaviest movements that you're doing. That's another way you could think about it, the heaviest movement that you do. For legs, chances are this is a squat, right? When you're targeting quads, you're probably going to be squatting, whether it's a hack squat, a barbell squat, whatever it is. This is your compound movement. We're going to do these early on within our workout. And because they're so ridiculously heavy and taxing on the body, you're probably not going to be applying this. I'm not going to be doing stretched partials with a barbell squat. Imagine how stupid that would look. If I'm genuinely going heavy, say I'm going like 5 to 8 reps, and after the 6th rep I fail and I'm sitting there at the bottom like, fuck. And then I try to do a few stretched partials. Do you know how ridiculous that seems? It is ridiculous. Be smart about this. It's usually the lighter, more minor exercises that you can be applying this stuff to. But after our compound movement, or if we chose a compound movement that this can be applied to, it doesn't mean that we need to be doing this for each and every set. And actually, I highly recommend that you don't do this for each and every set. The reason being is that when you train this way, first of all, you should be primed and you should be warmed up before taking your body to this level of intensity. Your chest should be warmed up before you're just cranking stretched partials. You should probably do a set of normal triceps before taking your triceps through this like agonizing pain that we just talked about. So I want you to think about it this way. Say you could be doing, with any exercise, let's just take triceps for example, doing a tricep push down. Say you could do a 3x8. You chose a certain weight, you're doing a 3x8, that's your potential. But, you watch this video and Simon said you could do, partial reps, all these things. And instead of doing a 3x8, you fail at 8 reps and then you're like, I'm going to do stretch partials. And then you crank it a few more times. It's okay. But what you've just neglected, what you've just given up is you fatigued yourself very heavily. The fatigue that comes with that is a lot. So your next set, you're probably not going to be able to get 8 reps anymore. And if you did that again, your next set, you probably won't be able to get even close to 8 reps. You might be getting 5 reps instead of 8. So think about this volume wise, right? You could do a 3x8 being equivalent to 24 reps. Or you could do a 1x9, a 1x7, and then a 1x6, adding up to 16, 22 reps instead of, that doesn't make any sense, 3x8, yeah it does, 22 reps instead of 24. Your overall volume has decreased. So the approach that I've always taken is no matter what exercise I choose, I'm going to do a pretty normal set for my first one. It might still be to failure. I might still take it to the point where I'm not going to be able to get another rep, and I'm still going to focus on the eccentric. Say we're doing triceps, I'm still going to finish my set with my tricep all the way stretched out. I'm not able to do another rep. Okay, I rack the weight and I'm done. What this does is it's a very safe set, right? I'm getting my triceps warmed up. I'm getting good blood flow. I'm also getting pretty good stimulus because I took it to failure. But only now have I kind of warmed up my elbows. My pump feels pretty good. I have good blood flow to my tricep. The second set, I might take it a little bit more intense. I might do 1 partial rep, depending on how I'm feeling. But if I'm feeling primed and my tricep is just in so much pain and the pump is just insane, and I just feel my fibers just ripping apart and just demolishing my tricep as I'm doing the exercise, that's what hypertrophy is. And especially on my last sets, if I don't have anything going on after, if I just did my triceps and I don't have exercises in the future to be worried about, like, oh, I need my triceps to be, good for this exercise. No, I'm just going to sit there and I'm just going to take that set as intense as I possibly can. So the first 1 or 2 sets, take it easy. Not take it easy, still train like a dog, but be smart about what you're doing. If you're doing 3 or 4 sets, that third and that fourth set is where you're just gonna demolish, where you just stop, you just like you don't care about fatigue. You're just training as hard as you possibly can. Failure for legs. It's very important to be training close to or to failure. Failure for legs can be very hard to judge. If you're doing a squat, say a hack squat, and you're going for 8 reps. And the 8th rep was pretty hard. It's just taxing on your body. Just hitting legs is just so taxing on your CNS. Your overall central nervous fatigue is crazy, right? You're just straining yourself so incredibly hard. And the 8th rep feels like, oh, that was the hardest thing I've ever done. If we put your family's life on the line, you could probably double that. Genuinely. Like, yeah, sure, it hurt. Okay, yeah, it hurt. Yeah, it was super tough. You probably have another 4, 6, if not 8 reps in the tank. So what that means is that you're not genuinely pushing to failure. You're not training as hard as you possibly can. So the advice that I want to give for you, specifically for training legs and literally everything else, is track your workouts. Track how much weight you did for how many reps. Track it so that next week you can come back and say, okay, I did this amount of weight for 8 reps. Sure, your family's life wasn't put on the line, so you weren't forced to push to 16 reps and actually double that. But then you can say, okay, I'm going to try to get 10. Or you say, okay, I'm going to add a little bit more weight and do the same 8 reps. So that way you're progressively overloading. And guess what? If you're doing that every single week and you're showing up and you're adding a little bit more weight or adding a few more reps and overall increasing the intensity and progressively overloading with exercise, whether your family's on the life Whether your family's life is on the line or not, you're getting stronger, you're progressively overloading, and therefore you are increasing the stimulus to the specific muscle group. It's becoming harder and harder every time you train legs, so you're still getting very good stimulus as you're growing one way or another. If you're doing the reps, you're getting stronger, you're growing. The last tip that I'm going to give you, the last thing that you need to apply to put this all together, is that you've done all these things, you've implemented these new training techniques, you feel like you know what the fuck you're talking about, and you're going to go to the gym and you're just going to demolish your next workout. You're still going to be progressively overloading, right? You may need to decrease the weight right now as you start implementing all these things, but once you get a hang of it, you still need to progressively overload and get stronger. As you add more weight, do not neglect the thing that made your training so good in the first place. Do not neglect your form. Do not neglect your technique. Do not neglect the eccentric. Don't throw these things in the trash, okay? It's so easy to start neglecting it because you're getting so much stronger. You're doing more reps. So imagine I did 70 pounds on incline dumbbell press. And it was an amazing set, right? I did it perfect. And I got 10 reps. And next week I come back and I pick up the 80s because I'm feeling super bold. I'm feeling super good. And I pick up the 80s and I'm doing them. And I'm like, holy shit. At like my 6th rep, I could be like, oh, I could definitely get 10. And I just, something clicks in my brain where I'm like, okay, fuck it, whatever. And I just start, just threw everything out. I just did, okay. Then I go in my little app, my little notebook, and I write down, oh, I did 80s for 12 after doing 70s for 10 last week. Do you really think your chest grew that much? Do you, be honest. Do you really think your chest made that much progress within a week that you are now able to do 80s for 12? Have some common sense, okay? If your reps are skyrocketed for no reason, if you've increased the weight and you're just doing, there has to be something wrong. Your technique probably wasn't the same. You probably didn't control the eccentric as much and feel the stretch, right? So as you progressive overload, don't neglect the things that make your training so good in the first place. It's not specifically about the weight, it's about the stimulus. So yes, increasing the weight is part of the stimulus, but that's not everything you need to be thinking about. Make sure your technique stays good. Make sure all the things that we've talked about are still in place so that you're able to keep making very good progress to the specific muscle group that you were trying to target. Recovery, eat your protein, 1 gram per pound of body weight, or just eat 200 grams of protein. I think that's such a good safety net for anybody. Just 200 grams, just eat it. And I promise you, you're going to make more progress. It's good for recovery. Sleep consistently and sleep quality. Sleep at the same time every single night. Wake up at the same time every single morning. If you can master sleep consistency and quality, your recovery is going to be primed. Your body is going to thank you if you can just have the same sleep schedule of 8 hours every single night. As you start implementing all these things, take rest days, especially when training properly and you're pushing yourself to failure and you're doing all these things and you're training past failure. You should be exhausted. Your body should be in pain. You might wake up on one morning and just everything is just like, ugh. You probably need a rest day. You probably just need a rest day. Don't be afraid to take rest days when training with such high intensity and implementing all this stuff. The last thing I want to leave you with is the more you put in, the more you get out. Don't be a dumbass. And when I say that, yes, intensity matters. Work ethic matters. How hard you train matters. But the more details you put in, the more you get out. The more you track your calories, the better your physique. The more you track your workouts, the better your physique. The more consistent you are sleeping, the better your physique. The more consistently you train every single day, if you show up to the gym at 3 p.m. every single day and that doesn't change and you just do only 3 p.m. workouts, the better your physique. The more you put in with autistically specific details, the more you get out. This is exactly what I implement for you and I teach all within my coaching program. This is exactly how all my guys are able to skyrocket their gains, whether gaining or losing weight. This is exactly how I make progress within my physique. Never really plateau, just keep making progress, keep getting stronger, keep leveling up and unlocking new levels of my physique because we know what the fuck we're doing. We're implementing all these things and we're training like fucking weapons. So, if you want to take your gains to the next level, my coaching link is going to be in my bio. You guys can follow my Instagram as well. I'll see you guys here in the next one. Mwah.